Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather, and today, by popular demand, my mother is back again. So, hi Joanne.
Hello, how are you?
So, what topic have you brought for us today about your reading?
Today I thought we could talk about the cozy reads. Everybody has those books that when you've had a miserable day and you just can't take it anymore and you've got to go someplace, these are the books that you turn to. You've read them 100 times, but they're your best friends. You enjoy them, you love the people that are in them. So these are some. I have a lot, but these are some of my favorites. And because I'm a librarian, I'm doing this alphabetically by author. My first favorite is, oh, thank you, Standing in the Rainbow by Fannie Flagg. Now, I think I have read everything that Fannie Flagg has ever written. She's never going to win a Pulitzer Prize, but I absolutely adore her. She is just wonderful. She draws such fabulous characters, people that you know, people you'd like to know. But this is my favorite because it starts in, and other books have kind of come from this book. She takes it and she runs with some of the characters, and that's kind of fun too. But it starts in post-World War II, Elmwood Springs, Missouri, and it follows a family and their friends and everything that happens to them through the decades. And it's fascinating and it's wonderful and it's just a very sweet book, and I absolutely adore it, and I highly recommend Fannie Flagg. I think she's most known for Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe, which is fabulous and I adore it. Redbird Christmas is adorable. Just recently she's published the sequel to this called The Wonder Boy. No, wait, I take it back. Wonder Boy is a sequel to to Fried Green Tomatoes. Very, very good. I really enjoyed it. But this is, if you're going to start with Fannie Flagg, if you've never read anything that she's done, I say start with this one because I think you'll fall in love with her.
Very cool. I still haven't read any Fannie Flagg.
She's a good laugh. She's sweet and she's lovely.
This one I have read.
That one, yeah. This is also part of my unhealthy fascination with the Tudors.
It's not unhealthy. It's perfectly healthy.
It's wonderful. I love Elizabeth George. I've read, I think, almost everything that she has done too. I did not bring, because I don't own the copy of Elizabeth I, but I've read it. We have it at the library, of course. This is an autobiography. It's not. It's a novel, but it's the diaries of Henry VIII, interspersed with commentary from his fool, Will Somers. It's wonderful. I mean, how accurate it is, I don't know, but it's really, really great. I love it. It takes you through his whole life. He kind of looks back. It's his perspective on the world, which makes it so intriguing because it's Henry VIII's perspective. It's not a historian. And it's fun. I think it must have been fun for Elizabeth George to put herself in his position and tell his side of the story. I mean, I still don't like aspects of his life, but it was a fun read, and I really liked it. And she's also done one, I didn't bring it upstairs because that's the Stewarts. She's done one for Mary Queen of Scots, which was very good too. I liked that one. She's done one, Mary Magdalene. That one was very good.
Those are not necessarily done autobiographically. Those are just
novels. Right. This one is autobiographical. In fact, Heather and I have fun going to book sales and pulling this out of the nonfiction areas of.
They didn't do it this year.
They didn't.
It was
fabulous.
In fiction. Good job.
Where it belongs, because it says an autobiography and then underneath a novel. But sometimes it ends up in the wrong place at book sales, and that's kind of amusing. But I highly recommend this one. This one is really good. Okay, this next one is part of a series. You like it or you don't. Jan Karen's At Home in Mitford. It's told in a rather unusual fashion. It's a little choppy. You have to kind of get used to her writing style. But I really like the characters, and there are a whole host of them. This is the first one. There have to be 9 or 10 of them. There might even be more. She also does children's books. It is Christian fiction. Something that I don't normally gravitate toward, but I liked this one. It's the story of Timothy Kavanaugh, an Episcopal priest, and he has this very quiet life in this lovely little parish in Mitford, North Carolina. And slowly his life changes. His sexton is given, sexton, his gardener, basically, the man who takes care of the church, is left with a grandson, and he doesn't know what to do with him. And then the gardener gets sick, and so the minister has to take care of the little boy. And then he gets a new neighbor, and he decides, oh, she's kind of pretty. And it's their relationship and how it grows. And then the parish decides he needs a housekeeper. And so in walks Puny Guthrie. Well, that's her married name, but nonetheless. And slowly his life gets richer and fuller and peopled. And it's kind of fun to watch. And it's not all peaches and cream. They have struggles and they have strife. But it's beautiful, and I really like it. And some days it's good just to go to Mitford, and it makes me feel happy. So
I think you'd love these. I think Kate Howe did a read-along of the series. I don't remember if it's this year or if it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
But if you like stuff she recommends, I think you would like this as well.
Yeah, it's a nice read. It's a fun read. It's an uplifting read. I enjoy it. And then, of course, back to my Tudor fascination. I will say that I had to the first time I read this, I wasn't sure I liked it. It took a second reading before I discovered, yes, I do like Hilary Mantel. And I love, it was, well, I mean, everybody, I'm sure folks have seen was it a television miniseries? It was on public television. It's a sympathetic look at Thomas Cromwell, because he's not often portrayed as a sympathetic person. But this was interesting, and I really, really liked it. And Heather, well, you've seen both on Broadway.
Yes, we saw
Bring Up the Bodies in London a couple of years ago.
And then I went with a friend to see Wolf Hall and Bring Up the Bodies when it came to Broadway the year after, I think.
Right, and it's worth a read. It absolutely is worth a read. It's another perspective on, I know people view Cromwell as a lesser known historical figure, but he's not. He was a mover and a shaker, and a very ambitious and a brilliant person. And it's interesting looking at the world from his side of the fence. I really liked that.
It's funny, I do love this. I don't know that I would categorize it as a comfort read.
It depends on who you are.
Yeah.
It really
does.
It yeah, it's the where my mind goes sometimes. So anyway, and then of course this too is Christian fiction, but I read this so long ago. In fact, this is Heather's copy. Mine is so old and battered. It was a very unlovely looking book. This is a lot prettier to look at. This is Christy by Catherine Marshall. Story of a young woman who is living in turn of the last century North Carolina, and she decides that she's going to go into the hills of Tennessee to teach the Highlanders, is what they like to be called, the folks in the hills, because there's a need for a school teacher. She's 19 years old, and she takes this enormous leap of faith. And the challenges that she meets, some of them are heartbreaking. I mean, the poverty and the ignorance, but of course that's what she's there to try and correct. But as she gets to know these folks, she starts to wonder, is she doing them a disservice, trying to change the way they speak? Because, this is part of their heritage. And I like that she has those thoughts. She's not a missionary in all capital letters, even though she is at a mission school. There's respect, and she learns as much from the people that she meets in the hills as they can learn from her. And of course there's a love story involved as well, and because we go to Scottish festivals, there are song lyrics in there, and it's like, oh, I know that song, and so that's kind of fun too. We like that. I'm the non-Scot in our family. Heather and her father are Scottish, and so we go to these festivals and we know the songs, we know the music, and we know the history. So that's kind of fun for me too, and I really enjoy that. Although
that was something that I loved about this, was that it highlighted the fact that a lot of people from the Appalachian area had that Celtic influence in their lives, which we know because we're fascinated with the Celtic side of our heritage, but a lot of other Americans don't know that. We don't really talk about that here, and I don't know why.
I don't know why, because it's the Celtic music that gave us country music. I mean, that's the parent stem of country music, is all of these people that came from Ireland and Scotland and settled in the hills, and the violin, the fiddling and the mandolin and all of that. That adds the richness to country music. Yeah, really good book. This is just plain fun. I love Peter Mayle. The poor soul is gone. I would have paid money to watch him cross the street. I have loved everything that I have ever read that he has written. He does both fiction and nonfiction. I think he's most known for his nonfiction. Everybody has at least heard of A Year in Provence, which was wonderful. And the television show was almost as good. It was, it's worth your time, anything that he has written. But this one, I think this might have been his first fiction. I'm not sure. He did a whole series of mysteries too, but I'll talk about that another time. This takes place in London, and it's about a man who has a very high pressure job. He's getting a divorce, and he's at 6s and 7s. He's unhappy with his life. He doesn't know what to do with himself, and he goes to France. And one thing leads to another, and he buys a hotel. It's not a great hotel. It's all of dealing with the workmen and getting it up to snuff. And then he's got to hire a cook, and he's got to hire, and he's got to do all of these things, and it's the people in the village. And it's Provençal village life that he highlights so well because he loved it and he lived there. And so he wants to celebrate the food and the people and all the produce that's grown there and the architecture and everything about Provence takes place. And then the fun part of this is there's a little side story, there's a little mystery about a bank robbery, and I won't say any more than that. But it's funny and it's sweet and you just love these people. And I would recommend, if you've not read anything, I would start with this one. And he's wonderful. He's got a delightful turn of phrase. Have you read this one?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's your father's favorite.
I know. I don't think I've read even A Year in Provence in full.
Okay.
I know bits and pieces, but never done the whole thing.
It's worth your time. It really is. It is definitely worth your time. And this is not a well-known Colleen McCullough. She tends to write doorstops. The Thornbirds was a really big book, and I think she did one on, was it Julius Caesar? She had a Roman period, and I didn't enjoy those as much because it's not a time period I'm particularly interested in, but I know they're very well done. This is very sweet, quite small. It's about 3 ladies living in the Blue Hills of Australia. It's a mother, a daughter, and an aunt. And their circumstances are not great in financially. I mean, they'll never starve, but they're kind of under the thumb of all of the men in the family. The men tend to inherit everything: the money, the fancy homes, the businesses, and the women don't get very much. But because the whole town is filled with, the family name is Hurlingford, the whole town is filled with Hurlingfords. And there's a lot of family loyalty there, so they don't feel like they can go outside the family. They can't go to other towns and buy their groceries. They couldn't possibly do that. But a wedding is going to happen with one of the young woman's cousins. Missy is her name. I don't know if I can say very much more without giving the plot away, because it is such a small book. Missy loves to read, and they have, I guess, some sort of a library where you have to pay. I don't know what you call that kind of library.
Well, it would have been more of a Regency style of circulating
like a
library.
Subscription library.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. It's kind of a subscription library. And they have a new librarian come in, and she's some sort of a distant cousin. And she decides she's going to bring out the spark that she knows Missy has, the spark that's been, that they've been trying to, that she didn't even know she had. And then, of course, there's the love interest that happens. I don't know what it is about this book that I really like. I know did you read it and you didn't care for it?
I read it in high school. I borrowed this one. I honestly don't remember. I didn't love it as much as you did.
Yeah.
But maybe I would love it if I reread it. I don't know.
I think I just like the idea that eventually the patriarchy gets tumbled, and the steps that it took. And it didn't take that much, but it took courage. And it's all of these little old ladies that affect this change. It started with Missy as the spark, and all the other old women join in. I don't know. It just makes me happy. I don't know. I think it's, well, we won't go there. my family history and the patriarchy, but I think that's probably why I really enjoy it. It's like, go girls. And, you're never too old to affect change. I think that's probably, and especially now as I get older, I really appreciate that.
See, now I want to reread it. I didn't pick up on any of that because
Well, you were a kid.
I was 16. What
Exactly.
did I know?
Yeah. So, when you have some time, it's a quick read. And I've always wanted to see the Blue Mountains of Australia. I've always wanted to go to Australia, and because of this book, I've always wanted to see that portion of the country. I've heard it's quite beautiful. And then she describes it well, so that's nice too. Okay. All right, my husband really knows that it's been a rotten day when I take out a Wodehouse. This is the first Jeeves in Worcester. Thank you, Jeeves. It's where we first meet him. And there's just something about Wodehouse. Usually when, I should have brought in a Blandings Castle, because everybody knows Jeeves and Worcester, but he also writes a series that takes place at Blandings Castle. And they're a lot of fun too. This is just sweet, between the wars, British society that Wodehouse does so well. The similes that he creates, the little turns of phrase, they make you laugh out loud. And some of the situations that Bertie Wooster gets himself into are perfectly ridiculous. But he has the code of honor, and he has to follow this code of honor. And usually Jeeves is the one that gets him out of the mess that he gets himself in. He's convinced he can solve the problem. He doesn't need Jeeves. Oh, no. But we all know he does. He does, absolutely. And it's wonderful, and it's sweet, and they're light, and they make me happy. And if you've not seen the television program, a lot of times, if I have a favorite book, because I've been reading Wodehouse for years. I had a professor in college who was his authorized biographer. I had no idea who Wodehouse was, but the whole idea that this man wrote a book because I knew his vocabulary that he used in the classroom, I thought, how could he possibly have written a book? So I read the biography, and that intrigued me. And then I discovered, as my mother saw me reading this book, she volunteered that she traveled on the train with P.G. Wodehouse when they lived in Southampton, when she and my father were first married. Of course, he lived in Remsenburg. And he would take the train into Manhattan to visit his publishers and whatnot, and she would be in the same train car. And of course, she never asked for his autograph. It's like, oh, for heaven's sake, Mother. But all of those little connections make him even a little bit more dear to me. And having had all of that, when the television show came out, I had no idea who Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie were back in the day. This is, 20 years ago now?
Yeah, it was early 90s, I want to say, when they did that.
And so they were on public television, so we watched them. They're fabulous. They're almost exactly what I imagined, and that is so hard to do. Very, very well done. So, if some folks have trouble, they don't enjoy the books, which I find hard to believe, but, that's your thing.
I will say there is a rhythm to Wodehouse dialogue.
Right.
Because I remember I was laughing out loud at one of them on the train with V.
Oh, okay.
It was right before the shutdown. We had gone into the Met. And she said, what's so funny? So here, I just passed the book over to her. And she's staring at it. She's, I don't get it.
I don't get it, yeah.
So I read it out loud to her.
Oh, you're right.
There's a rhythm there. So if you're having trouble with it, I always tell people, watch the series first so you get to know what it sounds like.
Yes.
Then try the books again. And I think it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think it is definitely a rhythm.
Yeah.
And Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry are just remarkable. And so are all the other ancillary characters. But once you've done that, I hope you enjoy the books, because there are a lot of them, and they'll make you happy for a very long time. And last but not least, I love Rosamund Pilcher. I've been reading her for years. This is her last novel. They're all good. Every last one of them. I have enjoyed every one of them. She's, I think, most known for Shell Seekers. I think there was even a television movie of Shell Seekers.
There's been a couple. So I wanted to see September in high school, but I never got around to reading it.
Yeah.
So
September is very good too. I really, really love them. This is my very favorite. I think partly because so much of it takes place in Scotland, and that makes me happy. And it's a Christmas novel. It takes place during the holidays. And it's just filled with such lovely people. It just is wonderful. The beginning of it takes place in Cornwall. Elfrida is the main character, and she is living in this tiny little town, and she's making friends with everybody. And there's a husband and wife who seem to have a great deal of money, but they're also very lovely, kind people, and she just enjoys their company, and she's drawn in to their life, and that's how she makes friends in this tiny little village. She goes away to visit family in the Cotswolds. Not in the Cotswolds, I take it back. In Cornwall, heavens. She does do a lot in Cornwall, which is really quite nice. A place I've always wanted to see. When she comes back, she discovered that there was this terrible accident, and the couple that she was friends with, the mother and the little girl, are gone. They were killed in a terrible car accident. And she decides to do what a friend will do, and she's trying to help the husband. And they go to Scotland for financial reasons because he can no longer stay in the house that he's lived in. And so they go to Scotland to this house that he has half ownership with. And then her niece and her grandniece come to spend Christmas with them because they have no place else to go. And then they start meeting the townspeople. And then they're snowed in. And then they're the stranger on the doorstep who turns out to be a lovely man. And their holidays and the friends that they make. And it's learning how to grieve and learning how to go past it and loving people and forming a family that isn't your own, but it's your family nonetheless. It's all about love. That's what it is. The bottom line is it's all about love. And you can't help but not like these people. They're just wonderful. And in fact, Elfrida has always reminded me of Kay. There's just something about Elfrida, my mother's cousins, and it's just and she's just this very effervescent, enthusiastic, who loves life. And every time I read it, I think of her, and that makes me happy too because I love Kay. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
I would also recommend Coming Home, which is a doorstop. It is a big book, very, very well done. It's a war story. It's the story of a young woman who starts. She's about 14, and her time in private school and the war and everything that happens to her. I loaned that one to Iris Robinson, this dear little old lady that we knew from church who lived through the war, and she just loved it. It made her so happy. I knew everything. I knew about this and I knew about that. And so for her, it was, reliving a time in her life that she really, that she had fond memories of, in spite of the war. But there's always joy. There's sadness, but there's always joy. And I like that. And it's finding family is kind of a theme that she has, a recurring theme. And that's kind of nice too. But I would recommend this one. It's not very big, but it's really good and it's very happy. And I usually reread it every year at Christmas time because it is a Christmas story. And that's the stack.
Lovely.
I think there are probably more, but these are my very favorites.
Yeah, I'd say these are your top. How many were there? 10? Can we call it a top 10?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Top 9. All right,
9.
fair enough.
I knew I should have brought the physician upstairs, but anyway.
Well, if we count blendings, it's 10. So
All right, I did talk about blendings.
could go that way.
Yeah, okay.
Well, nonetheless, it's not about numbers. It's about the comfort, and these are yours.
Yes,
And
yep.
I think I've done a video on mine. If I haven't, that will be coming up after
you
this
haven't, you
one
should.
at some point.
Yeah.
But let us know what your favorite comfort reads are down in the comments, or if you have any other questions for either of us about our reading, about any of the books that we mentioned.
Yep.
And until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading.
Happy
Bye,
reading.
everyone.
Bye.